Good evening. Welcome to With All Due Respect. I'm sitting in for James Smart. Now, from an initial list of 54 aspirants who had an interest in running for the top seat on the land, 18 were shortlisted, and after a week-long process of vetting by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, only 4 have been cleared to be on the ballot paper. Well, today, a section of presidential aspirants who were blocked from contesting the August 9th poll have accused the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, of discrimination and unfair treatment. We'll get to their sentiments in a bit. This being, with all due respect, Tuesday. We were dedicating this episode all to those who have been disgruntled and even those who've made it across, and perhaps will be giving us their view in terms of what they should be prioritizing, what the presidential aspirants and candidates should be prioritizing for Kenyans. And we were slated to have the Roots Party leader, Professor George Wajakoya, as well as the independent presidential aspirant, that is Reuben Kigame, who's seated right next to me. But at around 8:30 p.m. this evening, which is around the time we expect our guests to be arriving, to at least be receiving them and briefing them, I got a message from my producer, Arnold, and it read as, Wajakoya has pulled out. He had confirmed again, and now he's not coming. Basically, he has left us high and dry. And that is quite a stone-cold move, I must say. And we'll try to smoke him out from his joint to explain why, but all's not lost. We have Reuben Kigame here. And just to set the context right in terms of those who are disgruntled by the vetting process, presidential aspirant Jimmy Wanjigi of Safina Party, Third Way Alliance's Ekuru Court, and independent aspirant Reuben Kigame say they will be challenging the decision by the IBC to lock them out of the presidential race in court. And here's NTV's Zainab Ismail's report to give us the picture.
The three presidential hopefuls are among those who failed to meet the constitutional requirements for them to appear on the ballot on the 9th of August. They have, however, accused IBC of unfairly disqualifying them. The Third Way Alliance leader Ekuru Court, who was disqualified among other reasons for lack of requisite signatures, accused the IBC of applying the law indiscriminately.
My third time now seeking to be in the ballot. In 2017, on the 28th of May 2017, IEBC issued me with a certificate to run as president. Last Sunday, IBC denied me that certificate on the excuse that my degree certificate is not certified. Isn't that laughable?
A court vowing to take IBC commissioners to court.
Personally, I'm going to make a case against each and every of those commissioners, because people cannot make decisions.
Meanwhile, gospel music singer Reuben Kigame pointed an accusing finger at the Electoral Commission over discrimination against people with disabilities.
They have refused to receive my signatures as an aspirant, even though I am gazetted, and I have approached them twice with the same signatures, and they have refused. They say I am late in submitting the signatures. A big lie. Chebukati and IEBC are the most discriminating entity in this country.
The other gentleman, we had not received any documents from him as at the 25th of May, 5 p.m.
Don't appear in the list of those who are passed as the 4, and I don't even appear in the list of those who are disqualified. What does that tell you? That Chebukati and his team treat me as a non-entity.
While Safina Party's Jimmy Wanjigi's nomination was thrown out by the electoral body over lack of a university degree, said the commission was being used to silence him.
And all we are getting here is nothing else but a very vicious attempt to stifle any voice that is going to stop the path of trying to illegally remain in power.
If a person is dissatisfied with the decision of the returning officer on the registration of a particular candidate or a rejection of an aspirant to be so registered, he or she is at liberty to lodge a complaint or a dispute with the Commission's Dispute Resolution Committee.
The electoral agency cut down the list of aspirants eyeing the country's top job from a list of 55 down to just 4. Azimio la Umoja on Kenya's Raila Odinga, Kenya Kwanza's William Ruto, Professor George Wajakoya of Roots Party, and Agano Party's David Moure are set to be gazetted on Wednesday. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
So there you have it. And we have one of the presidential aspirants who were locked out of the presidential race, Reuben Kigame, an independent candidate, or aspirant, I should say, officially not a candidate based on what IEBC has ruled on. And you spoke earlier about a bit of the journey that you had, the process that you went through. Is this a case of lack of proper preparation, like everyone else was required to undergo, or a case of you just wanting to to be seen as a victim, to get huruma?
Mark, I stepped out to run for office in April of last year. So there had been a lot of sufficient preparation for the journey ahead. And I would say that it is the IEBC that has not been prepared enough to be able to help us not just comply, but also offer a fair and a very good process for this year's election. They gazette the procedure on 19th January, and imagine that the booklets to collect signatures, for example, are not available until mid-April. And then you're given about 3 to 4 weeks to go around the country and collect signatures, but then they had a caveat this time. You also needed to collect copies of IDs, right, of registered voters in majority counties, meaning 24 out of the 47. So who was not prepared?
You had all your papers in check, you said, on May 25th.
So I'm coming first from the process side,
right,
where IEBC gazettes in January, but begins to avail those materials in April of this year. That's just barely 2 months ago. And all the 55 candidates, apparently, are supposed to comply and get these signatures ready within that time. I have clips online indicating my launch of the signature collection in Uasin Gishu County. And we have gone around the counties. You know, some people are cooperative to give you their IDs. Some will say, no way, no way. And so it was a harrowing process. For me, as someone living with disability, it's not about just collecting signatures. I've got to have assistants who look at these people's IDs, verify, and so on, because I cannot look at pictures.
But you have the assistants and they verify the same.
Yes. So we went all the way and we did our best. And then we had friends who are independents, MCAs, MPs, as well as governors and so on around the country that we also teamed up with because they agree with our manifesto, they agree with our ideas. So some of those actually helped us with the ID copies because they were collecting on our behalf. Right. It was teamwork. So on 23rd, let me back up. On the 16th, we are gazetted. I present my running mate and all that. 23rd, we have a pre-nomination meeting with Chairman Chebukati at Bomas of Kenya. All of us, candidates, aspirants. And he says by 25th, you should have tabled these documents to commence the process. And, people say extend, he says, table them fast. And, if you have any challenge, you'll be guided and so on. So here's the fact. I walk into Bomas I drove into Bomas with my team just before 5 o'clock on the 25th, okay? on the 25th of May. I have...
Just before 5 o'clock, which is a deadline?
You see,
or is it midnight?
5 o'clock is what you would call the working deadline.
Right.
If you are in there by 5 o'clock, you can be served, just like it is in a bank.
Okay.
So I was there. And what is interesting, contrary to the chairman's allegations, is that our papers were actually received. The first batch was actually taken from us, and we were told that the rest of the signatures are not in order. Go and process them so that you have the right format and bring the Excel sheets as well in soft. So, but they insisted you must bring all these back by the 29th. So they gave me that kind of extension. The chairman says I did not present my papers by 5 p.m., therefore I was disqualified. Guess what? I was there in person, Mark.
Right.
So that's a blunt lie.
So if you're disqualified on the 25th, what's this you say that you were given a chance to come on the 29th?
So here's it. We have 26 counties. They pick 3 and say, most of this material is actually not in order. Go process it and make sure it's here by the 29th.
Right.
So on 29th May at 1 p.m., we drive back to Bomas. I have clips online.
Right.
Indicating my opening of the boxes and showing the different counties right there at Bomas. Now, guess what? The same officials that told us to come on the 29th were there. And we tell them, so here we are to present the materials. And they say, but there is a problem, you know, now we can't receive them unless the returning officer, you know, tells us that we can receive them. That is where the problem begins.
And why wasn't the returning officer there where
well,
he's meant
the
to be
returning
receiving?
officer was there meeting aspirant Kingori, aspirant Justice Juma of Justice and Freedom Party. He was there. So they asked me to wait in the lobby for him so that he can receive my signatures. Guess what? I waited until 11 p.m. at Bomas. This is in the public domain. I waited there until 11. You know, some of the people that were with me are actually in this studio on the other side of the studio. So minutes before 10 o'clock, one of the officials of the IBC at Bomas tells me that, you know, is it possible for you to share with us your email? I said, yeah, sure. And guess what? At exactly 10:00 on that particular Sunday night, the 29th, I receive an email from the chairman saying, I have not complied. That is where the problem begins. So we can go into the details because the next day I was maltreated. I was prevented from access to Bomas in the morning.
You had not complied on what basis? You didn't have the required number of signatures?
Before we even get to whether I had
what were his grounds of disqualifying you?
Basically, that I had not submitted enough signatures.
But you had all the signatures required?
Well,
you still have
not just enough, but I was even told to correct, and I did correct and brought them back. So they would not receive those. I have sought recourse. I was barred from entry at Bomas on the 30th. Ignored completely at Anniversary Towers on the same 30th. We wrote to them on the 31st, my lawyers did, and questioned why.
Okay.
So here's the thing. You played a clip here that has the chairman saying, as for the other gentleman, he did not even, you know, bring in the signatures by 5 p.m. Now, that is a blatant lie. And that is one of the reasons I'm running for office, to bring dignity back to Kenyans.
Right.
That is indignifying because, you see, I'm just a statistic. I'm not even in the list of those who did not qualify.
And again, this is not you playing the victim card.
No, 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 no.
All right.
Those are the facts.
I need to go through this a bit faster. You've had time to express the process that you followed, and you say you had everything that was required. So they give you a date to go and visit them at the office to explain your case. Was it a second chance? You've spoken of this, that you visited them, Chebukati and the other officials.
So here are the facts. My lawyers write on the 31st, asking them not to discriminate me and to give me audience. And they gave them 24 hours to respond, or we will go to court. That was on the 31st. They responded 4 days later, on Saturday, shortly after 3 p.m. in the afternoon, inviting me for a meeting. So I did attend the meeting on the 5th. That is another story, because I was also barred at the gate.
But you managed getting access? And you were in a meeting with Chebukati, among other officials?
For a few minutes. He said he would see us for just a few minutes. Okay, so now, I expected that at this point he would then receive my signatures. He said, no, he can't. No, he can't.
That being because you're beyond the deadline, or because they don't meet the threshold? What was this meeting for in the first place?
I wish he gave me a reason.
Right.
Now, the reason that was given to my team, you know, let me take that back. I wish he gave me a reason I could understand. So the reason he gave is this. His hands are tied. So
Chebukati tells you and your team, my hands are tied.
My hands are tied.
I understand your case.
And so, yes, I understand your case, but my hands are tied, and I wanted to know, tied by what? He said, by the law. So I have always wanted...
By the law, given the deadline?
You see, when someone cites the law, it is the burden of proof is on him to show which law makes him refuse. Yes. That non-compliance, the burden of proof is on his side.
All right. And so let me just interrupt there. And now that you're not in the list for the presidential candidates who will be on the ballot paper, is this where it ends for you? What recourse do you have? We've heard the others who say they're going to take it to
Mark,
court.
I'm not just missing on the list of those who qualified. I'm missing on the list of those who did not qualify.
Yes.
There's a difference.
You're not even acknowledged as being part of the process.
I'm not anywhere.
Yes, in other words, does it end?
In other words, I was never an aspirant.
All right. Does it end for you here?
Of course not.
What actions are you taking?
So, first of all, I have written, a complaints letter. I've filled in the complaints form. But that complaints form entitles me to a hearing after the 9th of June. But they are tribunal, okay? But now, the nomination period ends on the 6th. And by the 6th, I am not seen. So simultaneously, I went to court. Because it's dangerous to rely only on the complaints form and not have to do everything in your power to ensure that you get either conservatory orders or a restriction, constraining the IEBC to proceed with a biased process. And so I'm in court, yes.
Oh, you're in court, and we'll look at what if things go one way or the other. But I was going to put this to Wajakoya, but I'll put it to you as being one of the participants in the process. Do you see a deliberate effort to weed out aspirants and really keep what some have called predetermined list?
I see much more than that. I see not only to weed out all independent candidates, but I also see a deliberate effort to lock me out specifically as a candidate. Because there is no human explanation, there is no legal explanation, there is no process explanation.
Just you? Because there are others who've been locked out, not just you.
Well, my reasons are different.
All right.
So I'm saying that there is a general reason to lock out independents, but a particularly specific reason to lock out Reuben Kigame.
All right. So you going to, before the tribunal on the 9th of June?
I will go everywhere I need to go.
But that's the slated date so far. This is what you have. 9th of June, you go before the tribunal?
Yes, but before the 9th of June, we already have a process in court.
All right. So yes. If it doesn't go your way and you're not on the ballot paper for August 9th as a presidential candidate, will you participate in this process now as a voter?
There are two kinds of victories. One is ideological. The other is demographic. This election is going to be won by me one way or another. Either ideologically, because we'll carry this narrative of dignity, values, and people-centered development right to the ballot. The narrative will go on. Will I participate in this year's election? It all depends on what IEBC does between now and the 9th of August.
If you're locked out of the presidential race, will you participate as a voter?
As a voter, quite likely not, because it would not just prove that it is shambolic, but how do you participate in an illegal process?
And would that be your message as well to your followers who you were hoping to come in?
Not just my followers, but every living citizen in Kenya and in the diaspora. They need to know that part of the victory of any process, part of the fullness of any process is fairness, is dignity, and is the ability for people to have their democratic right to participate. My people are being denied, a lot of Kenyans are being denied the opportunity to democratically choose different. Instead, they're being forced to choose mainly between two, but among four.
All right, and let's say it goes your way and you are on the ballot paper. What does Reuben Kigame have to offer and prioritize for Kenya? What does he see as top on the list, really shortly?
So, first of all, this would be the most inclusive ticket in Kenya's history, because it brings to the table someone not just living with disability, but my running mate is a woman. Irene Kamau, who is my running mate, is a woman. So, in that case, it becomes the most inclusive, and for the first time, persons living with disability are going to be given a chance right at the top table by way of participation, but also in terms of spreading out the representation of this country's plebiscite in terms of counties. But it even gets better, because right from the demonstration of our commitment to have 50-50 participation in terms of gender, you can be sure that our message to the Kenyans, our message of hope, our message of a new start, based on three things, would be the thing that Kenyans miss if they don't elect us. First, dignity, the focus on utu. Mm-hmm. We want to restore that dignity. Secondly, we want to restore values. That is transparency, accountability, the rule of law.
And on that point, let me just hold you on that, because we need to take a break.
And then people-centered
You've spoken about the other manifesto, Azimio Manifesto, that was, let me not call it the Azimio Manifesto that was launched yesterday, and you term it as impractical. As you continue to explain what you would have to offer, we would see how best then you would offer for what as an alternative to what is being offered by the other players. Stay with all due respect.
This is NTV.
We are who we are. Beautifully African.
Whatever we are doing now is going to reflect in the future.
We thank those who came before us, and we pave a path for those who come after. We keep walking.
Biggest odds in the world every day on selected matches. Make a decision. Mozart Bet.
Aisha anakuroga.
Unajua sasa yeye ni fiance wangu.
Kama uniamini, basi usikule chakula yake for 2 weeks. Alafu, kwani Sara alikufanyia nini mpaka ukamfuta kazi? Mbona Oli?
Wewe, mbona ufanye kazi?
Eti harusi yetu itatugharimu $500,000.
Ati? Ungependa kuwa na watoto wangapi?
Watoto? Sidhani nataka watoto, wana kazi nyingi. Hapana.
Apply now for September 2022 intake. For more information, call us on 0729-223-370 or visit our website www.kabarak.ac.ke. Kabarak University, education in biblical perspective.
Every Friday at 10 p.m., NTV is dubbed as the home to the biggest and most fascinating people on TV. We give you a fix of the latest trends in entertainment. Pack your eardrums with the freshest hits. And bring you the biggest names in the 254 and beyond. Energy, synergy, fun and flair. If it's hot, it's on the trend. If it's not, well... Catch this exhilarating show every Friday from 10 p.m. with the freshest trio, Osoro Biamono, the Scratch Master himself, DJ E, and your sassy homegirl, Amina Abdi Rabar. All this on The Trend, only on NTV.
The Trend, in association with Johnny Walker.
We pave a path for those who come after. We keep walking.
Welcome back to With All Due Respect. And tonight we had invited an aspirant, a presidential aspirant, Reuben Kigame, who's here with us to speak about the process that has been criticized as a farce. And a candidate, one of actually the first few candidates to be cleared by the IBC to run for the top seat in the land, that is Professor George Wajakoya. Well, and it seems he was snuffed out of participation tonight, but we will hopefully get a response from him, a sober one at that. As you're following the conversation this evening, Joseph Kamau says, hashtag justice for Kigame. What is happening here is very abhorring, should not happen to anyone else because disability is not inability. Swazi, Malaysia, you say, it would have been good optics having him on the ballot. That is Reuben Kigame. He's an intelligent guy, well put together, articulates himself well, also to show Kenyans disability is not a factor when it comes to vying for the highest office in the land. And Frederick Onyango, you say, weren't the candidates appraised on the requirements beforehand? Presidential candidates can't set their own rules to follow. IABC is mandated to regulate and formulate policies. Otherwise, all the 40 million Kenyans, you say, would troop to be cleared to run. Your response to that?
Yeah, he's right that we don't set our own rules, and none of us, in fact, did set their own rule. What has happened is all of us have been victims of not just the direct rules set by IBC, but also indirect rules set to eliminate, especially independent candidates. Well, if you really wanted to know that independent candidates were not wanted, check if you can find any one of them on the list. Does it mean that all the 45 or so of us who are mediocre. We're not saying we should print a ballot of 45 or 55 people. We are saying this. Does it mean that all of us failed to actually collect signatures? All of us had no degrees. All of us did not have KRA and ESCC qualification and so on. As for me, the question is, my certificates were never looked at. Mm-hmm. My documents were never received. And I did not have the ability to even pay the 100,000 shillings that is required of me as someone living with disability. Same applies to women and youth.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
you
was...
weren't given a fair chance.
No, I was not.
Well, there's someone here who's happy with the process so far, and this is actually after he was cleared. I'm talking about Professor George Wajakoya of the Roots Party. And let's listen to his sentiments when just after he was cleared.
Mr. Chebukati, your decisions are firm and sound, and so is the Commission. And I have a lot of faith in this Commission. Should I be elected to be the president of this country, I think I have some people here who are going to serve in my cabinet to be elevated to a higher level, because they have demonstrated to the Kenyans that they can maintain integrity and they can look into the pillars of integrity. And as I take this opportunity to tell my voters that have been there, especially a lot of people have, when the media men whom I'm trying to really fight for, yet enough in proper regulation, you came up with a banner. It was not a headline. But you're going to reject it. So I don't know what you're going to do this time.
Well, he was elated, and you said on record today, Chebukati and the IEBC are the most discriminating entity in this country.
And we can begin with how they treated Wajakoya himself. He had less number of signatures. He had, according to IEBC, 17 counties. He was given more time to actually top up. I was not given even the first chance. That is why we're saying it is not fair. I know candidates, fellow independent candidates, that were given more than one opportunity to top up. Well, they still didn't. And I don't know whether Kenya has a new way of defining discrimination. I don't know whether there is another way of understanding what discrimination is. Discrimination means this, that what you do for Mark, you don't do for me. That what you give to Mark, you don't give to me. Guess what? That's exactly what Chebukati and the Commission have done. Is there another? Do we need rocket science to understand that?
Certainly
I don't
not.
think so.
Certainly not. And Reuben Kigame, you earlier were talking about the values that you would espouse and that you would prioritize as an independent candidate if given the chance, and what you'd prioritize. Well, you made comment on your Twitter page earlier about the Azimio Manifesto that was launched yesterday, and you say it has many ambitious points but is not practical on implementation given our mismanaged economy. It is, it is full of what but not how. So what is your how?
Well, I listened through the entire, presentation last night. Very flamboyant and very, very, you can see from the optics that it was a big event. Now, I was listening out to hear, for example, if we are going to bring down the price of fertilizer, as they said, by October to 2,000, that this is how we would do it. How would they do that? There was no how. I was listening out to the eradication of mitumba, for example, which I think is a very careless, statement to make to Kenyans that really rely on mitumba. There's a sweeping provision that we will actually establish textile industries that will sell, affordable clothes and so on, and will give, so all of that. The question is, how do you actually set up textile factories that already exist? Mm-hmm. I mean, we have Rivertex, we have these factories. The issue is, why haven't we invested in them? Mm-hmm. And when you listen to the Azimio Manifesto, because now it's in the public domain, I mean, they put it out for us to. Yeah. So if you listen to it, you ask the fundamental question: how do all those grand socioeconomic policies operate with our very constrained budget, but also the Auditor General's report that indicates even, for example, the post-COVID recovery funding has not even been effected? How do we operate with our ceiling of debt now rising to 10 trillion? You would think we know how to count.
And as we conclude, because that is something that has developed today, the National Assembly has approved a special motion by Majority Leader Honorable Amos Kimunya to take it up to 10 trillion from 9 trillion shillings. So this is where we are at. If Reuben Kigame is given the opportunity to lead the country, what would you do to either reverse it or stop it or fix it? What would you do in this particular
So let's
sense?
begin with that, because we are at it. That
Yes.
would be my number 3, and that is people-centered development, where when it comes to my point number 4, that is dealing with corruption and wanton borrowing, this is what I would do. First of all, and my priority as a president would be to stop economic bleeding, to stop economic hemorrhage. Uhuru Kenyatta admitted last year, January, that we are losing 2 billion per day. In other words, we already have it, but we are losing. So we start with where we are. Stop the bleeding by putting into office, first of all, responsible people of character, and then checks and balances that ensure we don't lose this money. So that is for the hemorrhage management. But for debt, we need to, first of all, live within our means. We teach our children that. That is how we do it at home.
Okay.
Live within our means. Don't budget for what you don't have. If the 2020-2021 budget was at 1.6 trillion, for example, don't budget for 3.62, because you will be going either into borrowing or you will be living above your means. Let's live with it. So for debt, let's live within our means. Secondly, let's borrow for projects, but not recurrent expenditure.
Okay.
Let's also borrow with interests that are manageable, not commercial. We can and then minimize local borrowing, renegotiate with our debtors to the point where if we are going to incur any more debts, it should be those that give back, not those that get lost.
Okay.
Yes.
At the expense, at the expense of you know, being told that I'm silencing you. My Chebukati, my director, says that we have to wind it up. But just in 10 seconds, please just finish up your point as we head on.
Is that all?
Yes, sir. Yes,
you
sir.
gave me room for only one point.
Yes.
But that's fine.
We've been on for almost an hour.
All right. So I have 3 main things for Kenyans. First of all, we would like to dignify the Kenyans. We want to stop the maltreatment that we see, including some of what has been meted to me. We want to stop people from treating situations of people like policemen and so on who live in difficult conditions as inconsequential. We want to give dignity back to the people. And that goes into housing, into food security, into healthcare, into free education. I can see Azimio is beginning to borrow my points now. They are talking about free education. And then secondly, we want to restore values. We want people of character. We want people who can say, follow me and do as I do.
Yes.
And then, of course, we want as much as possible to live within the law.
All right. Let me live within the law of time and the broadcast time. Something you
This
understand.
law is very discriminative.
No. Come on. We've given you an opportunity. In fact, you've been the sole guest, and it's been an honor to actually host you here. And we'll be following the developments of the recourse that you're taking in court to challenge being locked out of the presidential race. As you say, you deserve an opportunity as anyone else.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity
Reuben
to
Kigame,
be here.
thank you for your time and for honoring the invite.
Oh, no, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you guys are doing a great job, and thank you for giving me audience.
Shukran. It's good to be a man of your honor. Tell that to Wajakoya. And I'll end with all due respect at that point. Thank you for watching. Good night.